Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jungle, presented by Deserto. Your boy dGon here with Monty and Dom to break down the world of League of Legends. A little bit smaller now because some of those major leagues either on pause or already had their finish. So we're only taking a look here at the LEC and the LCS, who LEC had their playoffs finish. It was amazing. It was triumphant. It was dominant. In the LCS, there were a lot of reservations coming into this series about what Cloud9 was going to do, but those got answered pretty quickly. But as always, like I like to do. Monty, how was your week, man? How are you doing?
Well, League of Legends gets progressively worse to watch every week as the good leagues all end, and I have to watch more LCS. The LCS games this weekend were terrible, like really bad.
Starting with positivity as always. I like that.
Just that Golden Guardians are just awful. I was really surprised by how bad the LCS games were, especially after we started the year with like the super team and Team Liquid and fun Ivern and creative drafts from LS, and like we've fallen a long way. Let's put it that way. So next weekend, that'll be interesting for sure. I'm looking forward to LPL being back. I actually am legitimately excited about those matches. I was really disappointed in Rogue. That made me sad.
For those of you that don't know, LPL got pushed back due to, again, the COVID situation happening in China right now. So to be safe, they've pushed back their schedule and it'll resume this week. Dom, how are you?
I mean, maybe it might resume.
Right, maybe.
Yeah, Shanghai, I think, is still locked down, so God knows if it will or not.
I mean, they're definitely going online, but I think the matches will probably come back. I mean, it would be tomorrow where the matches would start, and normally they announce a little bit before, like 12 hours before the matches would start, that they are delayed. So I assume that they're going to start again tonight. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty interesting to see. I feel like LEC had a really anticlimactic final. Like it just ended up being like 3-0, 3-0, which is like. I mean, I think G2 played better for sure, but I think that a lot of like the series, I think in both series, the teams just collapsed that G2 were playing against. Like by the third game, both teams had massively winnable spots. And I don't care if you think that G2 is the best team in the world. There's no way that Rogue lose that third game without being tilted. Like it is impossible to like, it's literally like 4-0. You have a 2-level lead mid. Flocka died 3 times at level 1 before he hit level 2. And Rogue still found a way to like lose that game. Odo's just getting shit on by an Orin top as Jace. You've got Larson getting solo killed by an Ahri as TF when he has a 2-level lead, not ulting anywhere on the map. Like it was just the complete Rogue collapse. So I mean, I think I actually thought if
that's game 1 of this series, I think it's a lot different. I think that game is a lot different if it's game 1 or game 2.
Oh, it definitely made me think a lot worse of LEC though. Like it was one of those things where I'm like, I don't know, like. I don't know if this is like how you want your semifinals and finals to actually be looking, you know, if you're going to be going internationally, because G2 needed to be punished. Like they needed to overcome adversity. I feel like that's what like builds character within a team, especially a team that
they overcame the adversity of losing the Fnatic in the winners bracket.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but I don't even feel like. I don't even feel like the teams adapted to what was going on. It's like they just gave Caps Ahri twice in the final 3 games. They just lost. It's like, okay, you're playing Lucian mid. I just think like Fnatic's game 1 draft. It's like we're running back the TF again. Like how many times we're gonna fucking lose with the same draft before we change anything? Like where are the adaptations? I feel like that was one of the things that EU was always really good at historically, was adapting throughout series. And they would just like always be willing to play different drafts, or like. I thought the game to game like discussions were always really productive, and they always came up with like reasonable conclusions. But watching these games, I actually didn't know what was going on. Like I was like, so why are we playing the Lucian mid into the Ahri? Like why are we running back the same draft 85 times for Fnatic? Are they ever going to stop running the TF first pick? Are we going to end up next season they're just going to first pick TF 18 games in a row and lose all 18? Like what is going to happen? Like, because at this point, I don't really know what's going on. Like, it seemed very, very strange.
It sounds very interesting how the way that I'm describing, I guess, Dom's feeling right now is LEC is going through the LCS embarrassment of playoffs. Like that's what it is. So for all of you at home, I need to ask you, if you don't want to go through LCS embarrassment again, European fans, make sure to hit that subscribe button here so that you can stay up to date and smarter than some of these coaches and drafters for these teams in the LEC. Because
that was a nice transition. But I will say the upside to G2 is that I think they at least looked good in the last weekend, even though I think that Dom's point that they didn't face much adversity because it felt like Rogue and Fnatic were losing to themselves a lot of the time. But I think if you take G2 in isolation, I think they played pretty well. But again, it was not against competition that was putting up significant resistance, which is why the question of international play, I think you have to, take a little bit of a pause there. It's also just interesting to me.
Can you see this team beating T1?
Oh, no.
That's what they have to beat to win MSI, right?
Yeah. Well, it's just that it's also, I think that G2, it doesn't seem like the European teams learned from other regions, right? Like we touched on last week or the week before the Weibo JDG series where the Ari Veigar trades were happening in the draft. And I had Dylan Falco on Summoning Insight earlier today, and I asked him, I was like, were you guys prepared for a Veigar counterpick? Because and he was like, no, like we didn't think they would do it because Larson was literally not playing it versus us in scrims. And then also he didn't have any solo queue like games on it, or all their research pointed to no, that they weren't going to do it. They thought it might happen, but it's just interesting to me how these other regions can have answers to this. And Ari is going to be a powerful pick. Now, you definitely didn't expect Caps' form coming into this weekend. Yeah, but sure. I think you have to reasonably expect in a meta where Ari becomes a priority pick and even a first pick on blue side, which is what we saw from G2 in game 3, that you have to have something lined up for it. Clearly, they thought the answer to that was Twisted Fate, and indeed, they should have won that game. And they thought the answer was Lucian. However, Lucian died at 4 minutes into the game or 3 minutes into the game, whatever it was in that first game. So what Dylan said was that they were focusing on having very strong mid jungle combinations and shutting down Larson, which they were very successful at. But I do wonder, where are some of these picks? You can see that they were worried about certain counter picks to the Jarvan Ari combo because they banned Poppy in the first game when they didn't know what the jungler was. So that would be a jungler that could stop a lot of these dashes. But they weren't worried about the Veigar. The Veigar never came out. And Rogue's compositions, just frankly, don't really have any kill pressure on Ari. In game 1, who the fuck is going to kill Ari in game 1? In game 2, how do they ever kill Corki with this composition? How do they kill Corki? Imagine in your mind what a team fight looks like, and then imagine what it would take to actually kill Caps on Corki with Gwen, Volibear, Azir, Jinx, and Nautilus. You're just going to get poked forever.
Yeah.
I mean, the first game, they have literally their only hard CC is Leona or maybe Gravitum, but they have Xin, Lucian, Rumble, topside into an Ari. That looks like such a free Ari game.
And if you do lock down Ari, then the MF just ults because you used all your CC on the Ari. So it's either Ari or MF that's just going to be running all over you with this composition.
Yeah, I just don't know how they watched G2's games and came to the conclusion that Xayah was more of an issue than Ari. I don't know how they were watching, because when I was looking at these games, I'm like, damn, it looks pretty hard to play Xayah if the team comp has tools to just prevent the Xayah from playing the game, GPR, for example. You pop a GPR on a Xayah. I don't know what a Xayah is supposed to do because it seems like the Xayah just has to fucking run away slowly from the GP ult. And there was options for GP to come in instead of Gwen, for example. Game 2, they have triple AP topside. Obviously people talk about Volibear, but Volibear throughout the game does more magic damage in fights that are not as long because your E is percentage damage, and that's your highest damage ability. You're probably not getting off multiple W's in a fight, and then your ult is magic damage as well. So just watching these games, it's really weird because for me, I think G2 was probably going to win this series no matter what. After the series started, it just looked like they were just playing better. But I think they should at least be losing the games where they play poorly, right? I don't think that you can just give 4 kills to the enemy team, have your AD carry die, then walk into the enemy jungle, and die again, and then get dove on the fucking fully stacked wave and die a third time, and it's 450 and he's level 1, I don't think that game's winnable. Like, it makes me think so much worse of LEC that the best teams can't close out those leads. Like, they're just too mental gap that they can't close out those leads. So it's really strange to me how these games work, because I feel like G2 played like 4 like games that I think that they should just win regardless, where they just had like better drafts and they were playing better, which is the first 2 games against Fnatic and the first 2 games against Rogue. But game 3 against Fnatic, when they let the GP like team scale into late game with like Victor and all this bullshit, like Aphelios, Victor, GP just scaled into late game, like, and the enemy team is Baron, like, how do you win this game? It doesn't make sense to me. It's actually like, I think it's impossible to win that game, actually. Like, I don't see what can happen where you have a win condition anywhere, because you can't even, like, what happened in the game isn't even a win condition. It's like GP just died solo with Baron to the Gnar. Like, BB just kills the GP in side lane when all he has to do is clear the wave while his team just sieges bot lane, and then you just win, and then like somehow Caps TPs, and then you just like start winning the game off that because Fnatic's so panicked that like random people are backing, and then upsets at a 1v3 bot, and then he dies, and the whole game ends up fucked up like that, and then suddenly you have a massive advantage. Like, these are not things that I think are replicable against top, like the team that wins LPL and T1, that's your competition, right? Like, I don't think people I don't think EU fans are satisfied with going to international competition and having like G2 get like third, or like lose in semifinals and NA lose in semifinals. It's like, yeah, we tied with NA. Like, I feel like the aspirations are higher, and like the bar is set much higher for that region ever since 2018, 2019. But I don't think that this is like, I don't think that this is how you want the finals to look. Like, I don't really feel like G2 got tested, really. Like, I would have liked to see how they looked if they lost a game that they should lose. Like, what happens in the next draft? Okay, so let's say we did a mental exercise. Rogue loses the first 2 games. They come in that third game. They just stomp them. They have the TF into Ahri. What is G2's response? Are they going to run back the Ahri into TF? Do they ban TF? And then maybe Ahri gets banned. Then we get like a more neutralized game. Like, what is actually going to occur in that next game? I would love to see the progression of the series, because I feel like that's when you learn a lot about your own team. Like, I feel like that's when G2 would be able to like level up. But I feel like they just like team just rolled over and died. Like, Odo just like Odo and Larson were just like, here, please just take the trophy. Just take it, man. Like we've had enough. We don't even want to get to game 4. Like, it was crazy.
It's also just like you have to be able to snowball those leads as Twisted Fate. That's like literally like what he does best.
He's 2 levels up.
Yeah, he spent probably 1 or 2 minutes with his ult before Ahri had ult. Ahri does not have teleport this game. He didn't use that window to ult when he was 6 and Ahri was like 5. And I think he was 7 when Ahri was 5, actually, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't use that window of time. Then Ahri hits 6. Then he tries to ult. He gets caught. So here's the crazy thing. He got caught trying to ult into top lane when Ahri didn't even ult to stop him, which means that his positioning was... I never got to see it because it was never shown on broadcast.
They showed it in the
I
mini
saw it get canceled.
monitor.
I saw it get canceled, but I didn't... It was a picture-in-picture?
I think they did. I think they did a picture-in-picture. I can go back.
Okay.
And make sure.
Because like I still don't understand how he was in such a bad position that he would be able to get stopped by Charm when Ahri didn't use Spirit Rush to close the gap, which means he was just like walking into the river and Ahri just walked on him and hit E, which is, come on, you got to be better than that about using Twisted Fatals. And then even when there were other fights in topside, he would like motion topside, and then he would just walk into mid and start autoing the turret. Now that probably was his team calling him off and saying like, it's okay, you don't have to come. But yeah. I think you just have to.
But like, oh my God, I'm rewatching it in the picture-in-picture. The Ahri is literally on his own pink ward. So he has a pink ward in the bush where Ahri is, and he's just looking top. He's just not looking at his character. And then he's so fucking mentally fucked from the first 2 games that he can't even play the game normally. Like, he's better. Like, Larson is actually a good fucking player,
Yeah, he's
right?
a very good player.
He's an insane player. So he's not some noob who like can't do 2 things at once. He plays.
So he was
TF.
actually just TF ulting on a pink ward.
So he was on a ward, but the Ahri is clearing a pink ward in charm range right next to him on his screen. And he's like ulting top. Like there's I'm telling you, it's a mental breakdown. But that's like,
for sure.
It's so sad to me because I was like really on the Rogue hype train after last week. I was like, okay, well, I mean, I wasn't really on the Rogue hype train.
Me too, man. Me too.
But I thought that a team would actually have to play better than them, like holistically over the course of a series to beat them. I thought that they weren't going to beat themselves. They weren't going to do that choking bullshit where like you just see everyone playing uncharacteristically terrible in a game in the series that matters. I felt like they proved that they could get through that type of tough situation last week.
No,
so I don't
agree.
know how they reverted this week to like Odo got his flash burned by Ornn. He got solo killed by Ornn as Jace versus Ornn, man. Like that's the Ornn is not supposed to be shitting on you 1v1 if you're playing. If that's how the matchup goes, you should never pick Jace again, ever blind. The champion is just terrible blind. Someone should just get Jace every game and everyone should just counter pick with Ornn if it's actually that bad. If that's how the matchup goes, leave the champion up for the rest of eternity. Jace is a fucking dog shit champion, all right? Like that's just what the conclusion has to be. So it's like he's getting shit on by the Ornn.
Ornn can't. What Dom's saying is it's illegal for Ornn to win both early and win late. Otherwise, he's a god tier
and be a
first
fucking
pick
frontline. Like, yeah, he's just the best. Like, then Ornn is just by far the best champion in the game, and Jace is just dog shit. Like, I mean, I think Ornn is a fucking good champion. I don't think it's that good though. Like, that is crazy levels of good. That's like a first B1 Ornn. If it's like this, B1 Ornn or ban it because it is that fucking broken. So yeah, I don't know. It was really disappointing to watch for me for these reasons. Like I think that
Rogue didn't understand like what the priority for themselves was. It felt like they first pick Aphelios on blue side in game 1. They're like, uh-oh, we got shit on because they pinched the jungle pool. So we're gonna try and get the Volibear right as the first pick in the second game. But those are two very different draft strategies and how you're going to play the game. And so it just felt to me like they didn't have a core idea of how they wanted to play versus G2 coming into the series, because the draft just shifted pretty wildly. They were also blind picking Rumble in top lane in the first game.
I thought that was good. Well, I think the blind pick Rumble is like, because the strategy here is like, okay, so they want to give up Ahri and then pick Lucian into it.
Yes.
And if you have,
they have two ADs, so you have to have an AP top. Yes.
Yeah, so you have to have an AP top, and then Rumble has like very few like really terrible matchups top lane right now. And yeah, I think that the Rumble game was actually really good. I think Odo was like playing really well in that game. I think Odo outplayed BB heavily in game 1, but like the rest of the map collapsed. And in game 2, I think that Odo's lane phase was good again. He was up like 20-30 CS on the Ornn. And then in game 3, he just like, it was just like the Odo collapse, which I just hate to see, because like I want this guy to fucking win it at some point. You know, I feel like
we all do. He's such a nice guy.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy, and he's like, he's good. He just, I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, if his team is good enough, he won't actually need to play well every single game. Like you don't need to actually be a fucking beast every game to win a title if you're on the right team. Like, that's just the facts of the matter. But I don't know. I mean, this is like it was a little bit rough in that third game. I think that third game like really just showed where Rogue's mentality was in the series. I mean, even after like some of the bad stuff happened where like the TF ult is canceled and stuff. Number one, like, this is not a great Trundle game. Trundle's playing into like no one that's going to be like a super good target to ult, because of like, I mean, I think Jarvan can actually go Goredrigger in this game. I think that, I think the build was weird, but like they're in a winning position, but you can tell by how they're playing that they feel like they're losing. Like you can feel the stress that they're under in the game by watching.
Yeah, because they were much more, I would say, indecisive than we've seen in the past. Like to the point of TF like going what was it? It was like at 12 minutes in the game, 13 minutes into the game, when Larson was like motioning topside for the fight that was going on, when several members of both teams were converging. I think you just, regardless of whether your team calls you off, you just go in on that, because there's very little downside. Your wave is pushed up in the mid lane. Yeah, you're not going to get some plate gold, but the downside of that is you actually start to get the other team back into the game. So I think you just walk up there and just at least wait in range to see what's going on, as opposed to returning to mid. The way they were playing out these scenarios was very odd.
I mean, it was
just scared.
Super strange. I mean, they were definitely scared. I mean, here's the timestamp for everyone. Look at the game at 14 minutes topside. So they know, they do this TP play topside at 14 minutes. Odo just got solo killed by the Ornn bot lane, but they know that Ornn could not be top. He has no TP. Caps is no TP, ran cleanse in this game. Flocket is no ulti, no cleanse, and Larson is right next to him. They have a 4v2 and they just let Flocked live. They just walk away from it because they're like so fucking panicked about the situation. Like you could tell based off just like their movements, they were like super erratic in the game. It was like they needed to just chill. And then in that same fight, that's the one where Comp just flashes over into like 3 people at the end of the fight and just dies. It's like, and he's the super fed Jinx. I mean, I don't know. It just felt like they just weren't themselves in this last. I think game 1 they just got out drafted. They just got straight up beat. I think game 2 it was like they're on the edge. It was like some uncharacteristic mistakes, but like G2 once again I think out comped them and out drafted them. And then game 3 I think is like a free win for Rogue. I think that any team should be able to win that. I think that like Astralis would win with these advantages under normal circumstances. Like it's actually just anyone should win that game, and then they just lose it. And it's like, damn, that's how we're like losing titles, I guess. I don't know.
It was very disappointing.
For a team like Rogue, who, as you've hit on before, felt like turned the corner in the previous series, to lose like that, to have pieces like that. I go back to your comment about Odo not needing a team, not needing to play perfect every time. If his team is good enough, that's what this team felt like. It felt like they were there. And for whatever reason, every team that played G2 after the losers bracket could not piece together anything. It was the G2 diff. And it as you said, very similar series where games 1 and 2, you could feel the panic. And then game 3 for both series, it wasn't like G2 put together the best drafts, but the mental boom was pretty clear.
Yep. And then what happens? We get out of the replay in 14 minutes. They pan back into the game. What is happening? Okay, Larson 105 on TF has a stopwatch. Solo killed by Caps hitting the tier. Like he's just under the turret. He gets
in the top tier 1 turret, right?
Yeah. He just gets solo killed by the Ahri as TF. Like it's not even close. Caps ults and finishes him off, but Caps had like 2 more ult charges. Like it was like not even a close 1v1. So it's, I don't know. It's really
I'm looking
to see this.
Larson Destiny was up in like 2 seconds. So I think he was just thinking, all right, if it does get hairy, I can ult out. And Caps showed up with like a 10-second difference. And it was like, well,
what do you mean? He's literally autoing the turret once Caps is there. What?
His ult was up like in like 5 seconds. Like I'm looking at it right now as he's getting chased down by Caps. You see it?
Yeah, but like he's full life and he's just like Cap shows up. He's on the wave. Like, I mean, just look at the minimap. How is Larson in the situation where he lost literally? I mean, he's tanking turret shots too. How does he end up in the situation where he loses 70% of his HP bar under turret versus the Ahri who walked through lane that did not ult? Ahri did not have ult. So like Ahri just like, and had no flash. So Ahri walks up and does 70% of his HP bar and he's taking the turret. And then Larson dies. Like, how is this even almost a reasonable death? Like this is disgusting.
I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to think what Larson's thinking.
Like his ult is like his ult is up in 10. I mean, even if he has his ult up, he's just still gonna die, right? Like Caps is just gonna kill him.
Yeah, charm and then dead, or maybe throw a gold card, dodge the charm.
I mean, he's literally 30%
HP.
Like he's just dead.
Yeah. Well, Larson and the rest of Rogue kind of playing a little bit more like Astralis, and as we've said every week here on the Jungle, we are trying to chase Astralis in terms of subs, and right now we're at 108, I think. Sorry, 180, somewhere around there. We're only 3,000 away. Every time that we do a video, we're getting closer and closer. So we're hoping that we'll be able to get it by the end of MSI. So right now, Charlottes are at 11,000. So make sure to hit that subscribe button here on the Deserto League of Legends channel so that you can continue to support us here at the Jungle so that we can continue to create more content that you guys love to see here. So thank you for all of you that have subbed. And if you haven't, make sure to take that second right now. Take that second. Find the red button. Hit that button for us. Thank you.
And right now, you have to say that our Dom sub ratio is really off. We would be a terrible BDSM club, so we need more subs for Dom.
That's right.
True. Thank you.
Thank you, Dom. All right, there we go. Jeez. Any closing thoughts here on the LEC?
Yeah, you make that transition.
Yeah, I'm not. where are my beta bitches at? All right, here we go. Dom, closing thoughts here on the LEC before we turn to the LCS.
Well, I mean, I think on the positive side, I think it's really big for G2 to be able to win. And I was thinking about like G2's the construction of the team, and I can't imagine 3 better veterans to be like rookies or new players to LEC to have on your team than Broken Blade, Jankos, and Caps. Those seem like some of the most ideal people to be in veteran positions to like make rookies feel comfortable within the team. Yeah. And I feel like that was a huge,
very good mentality, lighthearted atmosphere.
Yep.
Yeah, high skills still.
Like, BB's just the ultimate homie. Like, you know, like BB's not gonna fucking shit on you if you're bad. You know, he's gonna be patient and try to like, you know, work you up to his level. So, and I feel like Jankos is just like the same way too. When you hear like the voice comms, you can see that like Jankos is just the guy who's like, okay, guys, like we just need to improve our level quite a bit. And then something that I was saying throughout the year, I had this take before playoffs even started. Before the playoffs even started, I said that Jankos was the best jungler in LEC, and I still feel like that. I feel like he was like really good just the entire fucking split. Like he was just super high level the entire time, even in playoffs. Like all of his pathing makes so much sense. Like he's so fucking smart about the game. Whereas like I can't say the same. Like I feel like it took until the last series, but finally people started like exposing some bad pathing from the other junglers. So. Yeah, I mean, I think that Jankos really, I think this is the title that makes me think the highest of Jankos, because all of his other titles are just with that super dominant G2 team. But this was like one of the titles that I felt like he wasn't supposed to win, right? Like Caps and Jankos were not supposed to win this title. I think coming into it, like everyone I talked to said Rogue and Fnatic were miles above all the rest of the teams. That was coming into the playoffs. And the fact that G2 was actually able to like find ways to win, even if the other teams are not playing optimally, being able to figure out like drafts that are going to put you in advantageous positions, like being able to like tailor game states to your biggest strengths, I think is actually something that's really hard to do. And it seemed like they were able to do that really well. So I think that G2, more than anything from this, I learned about like I think their prep was by far the best. And I think their mentality throughout series was by far the best, and I think that's why they won the title more than anything else.
Well, I also think like one of the biggest factors is that if you look at G2's earlier wins, a lot of it is coming off of Broken Blade carrying from the top lane, and the missing piece here was Caps being back in a form that would be fearsome again, like we've been used to seeing for years. And for whatever reason on this final weekend, whether it was the pressure or being back in front of the crowd for the first time in a long time, Caps really fucking delivered, even when Broken Blade switched back to playing a more, I would say, weak side top lane. And not only that, but Jankos also reinvented himself. He basically became Malrong this last weekend, as opposed to some of the more scaling picks like Viego that he was playing previously. And the picks in the jungle became a core part of the Rogue series, where I think that forcing Malrong onto the Xin Zhao in game 1 and like prioritizing the Jarvan was really, really helpful for G2, and it neutralized some of Rogue's strengths. So I was really impressed. I was really impressed by the adaptations they made from last week to this week, because it answered a lot of questions and showed they could play a very different style than they had won with in the playoffs previously.
And they had like good backup answers to like what was going to happen. Like they thought like, hey, like Flocket's been playing a lot of Xayah. What happens if like teams start targeting the Xayah? They had MF, which they hadn't played before, which ended up being like really valuable. So I think that G2 definitely was able to come up with like really good conclusions and ways to actually amplify their teams. And when you look at like how other teams adapted, it's like other teams almost didn't adapt at all throughout playoffs. Like when you look at how the other teams played, like it looked like bot lane in the Rogue series actually did not know how these lane matchups go. Like when they were playing the Nautilus Jinx into the Renata Xayah, it looked like they actually had no clue what to do. They're like, okay, do we engage? Oh wait, never mind. If we engage, we just run into Renata ult and Xayah just ults and then they just fucking kill us 2v2. So like, what do we do? Like you could tell that they were really uncomfortable in those situations. So I think G2 was really good at being able to just like outdraft, like, and they just seemed like they had a better grasp on the meta that was going on within LEC than any other team.
Yeah, and one thing too that Dylan confirmed, this was a suspicion that Thorin had, which was correct, is because they were on opposite sides of the bracket, and then G2 was in the losers bracket, they were primary scrim partners with each other. throughout most of the playoffs, which also is why this series ended up being so weird. And like, especially in the draft phase, and why, when I asked Dylan, I was like, okay, so the Poppy ban I think was smart, but like, that's not a priority jungle pick. And he's like, we knew from scrims. And I was like, oh, okay. Like you knew that was a possibility coming in from playing scrims against them, because it's just one of those things that shows up in a draft in a professional game and is only explainable by shit that we haven't seen going on behind the
information.
scenes. Yeah.
Targamas, I just want you to guess his. I guess we can use this as the stat of the week, because I feel like he played a ton of different champions and pulling out the pike earlier. But I looked up his regular season stats. How many unique champions did he play coming into just this season?
This season, I would guess like 12.
Right, like 12 is still a lot out of the 18 games you get, but no, it's not 12.
I think it's 13 or 14, because I think it was 12 a while ago. I think it was 14.
Close. It's 15. He played 15 unique champions. I think that is the most that I've heard,
including
this
playoffs.
season play. No, that was just regular season.
Wait,
but then he
really?
played all the same ones. He played all the same ones.
I
during
remember
playoffs.
it was 12 towards the end of the split. So wow, okay.
Yeah. So like, again, for those young players, I like the way that you broke that down. It's you got your vets and then the young players. For those young players to be put in a position to have the freedom to play stuff like that. Because I was just thinking about the pike there at the end that ended up being a huge comeback mechanic when your AD carry is just stunted like that in game 3. I think it just takes some vets that have seen some shit. And we know that BB, he spent some time in NA. He's seen some shit. Caps and Jankos, they've gone through, winning and then losing, and to have that taken away and then coming back. They've seen some shit. To allow your young players like that to perform like that is pretty awesome. So
yeah. Also, I like that they dropped the champions that he was just bad at. Like they didn't even try to make it work. I feel like other teams are so sticky with things. Whereas like with Targamas, it's like he played an Alistar game, it was not good. He played the Leona game, it was not good. They're like, never again. Like we will just never make you play these champions ever for the rest of your life. Like no more Thresh, no more Leona, no more Alistar. Like you play what you think is good, man. If you want to be playing Rakan, like Renata, if you think those champions are fucking broken, go ahead and play them. And I feel like that's just the vibe that all BB teams have, because that's what BB loves to do top lane. Like he's the guy that wants to have the like all of his teammates be open-minded, and he wants everyone to be the same way towards him. So like I feel like that's something that's a huge advantage of having a player like him, because he always wants draft resources. He's somebody who generally likes to have later picks. In this last series, I'm pretty sure they didn't end up having much draft resource for him. I don't think he counterpicked very often at all, because Ornn was just up and he was just like, yeah, I'll just take Ornn. But in general, throughout the season, like we saw a lot of Yone picks that were like flexes. We saw the Akshan, we saw the Tryndamere. And pretty much we saw no one else. We didn't see one other Yone, I believe, the entire split. I mean, at least we didn't see any other Yone tops the entire split. Like Akshan top was like, every now and then I think we saw like a couple people play it. We saw Odo play it once, but not many people were playing that at all. And, he was able to take those picks as well. And I feel like that was kind of the vibe of like G2. It's like, you just play what you are good at and what you think is good. We're not going to focus on like what are the most optimal picks in the entire fucking world. Like we're trying to win LEC. We're not trying to like hit some like, imaginary target of perfect drafting or like perfect knowledge of the patch.
Another chapter written in G2's storied history here. This one has to feel sweet, and you hit the nail on the head in the post-game interview with Broken Blade. He was like, yeah, someone said that Ornn was busted. I didn't believe him. And then I started shitting on players, and I was like, all right, Ornn's busted. So, love the insight that we can get from players as much as we can. All right. So, I guess feels bad for Rogue, feels bad for Fnatic, falling a little short, but G2, the representative here at MSI for the LEC moving forward. That is a concluded major region playoff series, but one that isn't done yet is the LCS. We had ourselves
No, dGon, no, don't make me talk about Golden Guardians.
We gotta do it. Come on, man. All the Golden Guardians fans. Actually, all right, I'm gonna flex, whatever. I was out last night and I was wearing my old Golden Guardians like pullover, because I don't wear anything Golden
And somebody
Guardians.
just
but
came up to you and started beating your ass, just like hey,
that's
you
what I
got
thought. I was
jumped for
afraid.
it.
I was very, very afraid.
Okay.
And
That's not how it works.
stopped.
He
got
tripped
physically
and fell
assaulted.
on his own face. Actually,
The ground
Yeah, that's right.
assaulted him.
When you're working with the big brands, you hurt yourself. Nothing happened to you. But yeah, someone stopped me and said, hey, is that Golden Guardians? I was like, yeah. They're like, hey, are you dGon? And I was like, why did it go in that order? But okay, that's fine. So, but yeah, let's talk about it. Golden Guardians, they came in up against Cloud9. People were hyping it up. Maybe something will happen. Maybe Summit still doesn't know how to play. Maybe, the nerves come on in. But Isles gets the call to play and start on the bottom side of the map at support after Winsome. It felt like Winsome just kind of
I think he must have choked in front of the crowd. That's the only.
Yeah.
I mean, first off, he was up and down throughout the split, but
And then he had
second
a really
off,
bad last 2 weeks.
yes, yes. I think something must have happened where he was feeling very nervous in front of the crowd, because you have to remember that Summit tanked all of the aggro against Cloud9 because of the Renekton picks and like the ridiculousness of the draft and how badly he played. But secretly, Winsome was also playing very badly.
It was a fun theory to be like, oh, Winsome was the one that made Summit play Renekton. It must be his fault. Yep, communication issues. Boom, done.
I like how nothing was ever Winsome's fault, even though there was a lot that was Winsome's fault the last couple of weeks. It was just the other problems were somehow even more obvious. So I think that the only reasonable conclusion you could draw is that he was getting nerves being on stage in front of the crowd, and that was causing a bad performance, which must have allowed them to put Isles in or made them make that decision.
Yeah. So again, Winsome, very young, and then hasn't played in front of a crowd. I think a lot of us forget that is actual pressure, right? Just not even like mental pressure, but physically, the stadium is there. You can hear the audience, the shaking of the speakers, the lights they change the way the lights work in the studio. Like it is a physical change as well as the pressure that's there. And Winsome didn't do so well with that. They make the switch. They go with Isles. I interviewed Isles at the beginning of the year. Mature guy. It felt like he was waiting for this time to come, and he filled his job well. But also, Golden Guardians didn't play well and kept drafting the Nocturne. And they talked to it on the broadcast. The composition didn't really fit anything. It was like, okay, you have dive champions, but then you have peel champions, and how are you going to make this work? And it really felt like
I don't even think that was the problem. I mean, I think it could have been the problem on a long enough timeline, but the real problem is that they don't even play the composition early in a way that could ever be successful. Like, they're contesting early objectives when they need to scale before they get Nocturne ult, and they have a tier in every single lane. We didn't even get to the point where the comp was bad because they were misplaying it so heavily in the first place.
Look at that.
Yeah, I mean, it was an awful game. Like we're talking game one, like that was just some shit. Like the gank from Fudge and Blabber was potentially the worst mechanically executed gank I have ever seen in my life.
Oh, you're gonna blame C9 over Golden Guardians? Okay.
Well, no, it
was bad, but like, I feel like this is what Summit was last week, where like that was the most obvious thing that was wrong, but like basically everything Golden Guardians did was garbage. So
yeah, so this is how I work. Like I have expectations for like players and teams. So like for me, Golden Guardians, like them being shit is like, yeah, like I've been
this
saying
shit though, this was like next level shit that they were this week. I
wasn't surprised by how shit they were. Like I never really thought they were that good. Like I mean, I think Pride Soccer's pretty good, but I mean, there's something in his contract that says you must only pick Nocturne for the rest of your life. I don't know. I mean, look, on the bright side, they get like 2 months off, so they can just go chill, go to the gym, like pick up a new hobby, enjoy the weather, go to the beach. Like they can chill for like 2 months. So like that's a benefit for Golden Guardians. But like, come on, this game one, I of course Golden Guardians played terrible the whole game. Definitely not giving them any excuse there. But like, just seeing how the game should have played out for C9 and then looking at that fucking gank. Oh my God. Like, have you ever seen anything so bad from Fudge and Blabber in your life? Like, Victor lasered backwards. Like, have you ever seen a Victor laser backwards? How does that happen? How do you laser backwards? Like, it's not like a thresh flay where you're like have to aim back to like flay the guy. And sometimes you see people like try to flash flay and they flay backwards because they're trying to quickly adjust.
You literally have to drag it
up
the opposite direction.
Yeah, well, like I don't know how the Victor laser ends up going behind you, like because why would you be clicking behind you when you're walking forward? Like I can understand him missing it, like the angle of it being off, or maybe like he slid his mouse in the wrong direction after, but he like casted it behind himself. Like I don't even know how that fucking happens because generally your mouse is going to be ahead of you when you're chasing, right? So then you see Blabber throw the worst Q of his life, and then he flash kicks to try to get the guy off the blast cone. And his Q isn't even up yet, so he can't even kick into Q. And then he misses the next Q, and he just dies. And it's like, how is this is the result? Like, come on, guys, we're better than this. Like, we're better mechanical players than this. I think. I hope so.
For those of you at home, start your clip at 11:38, game one. It is amazing. Actually, I just did that while you're re-narrating it, and it was so much better.
I mean, just look at the laser. Like the laser, I think a lot of people like missed, but the laser is just what? Why is it going there? Like, how does it end up behind you, bro?
Wasn't it also on the opposite side of? It was on the on the bottom side of the map when they were on the top side of the map. So it was like backwards and on the wrong side.
It was like going into the top bush, the top line bush of mid lane. So he's like walking there, and then he just lasered like behind himself back, which at that point is like slow. So obviously it would be it's really like good.
Way. Just go straight like this way for some reason.
I don't know. When I saw that, it was crazy. Also, here's something that I want everyone to just realize: if enemy teams draft Xayah, just pick GP. GP just makes it so unplayable for Xayah. You drop GP ult on Xayah can't play the game. Like, can't walk forward at all. All it can do is kite backwards. And if you're playing a comp that doesn't actually need to like full commit into Xayah, like you're playing this comp that they're playing in this game one with like Leona, Victor, GP, MF, Lee Sin, you don't actually have to dive the Xayah, and you don't really have to dive like any of their champions, really. You could just kind of play front to back, and Nocturne's going to fall off. Xayah is just so worthless in all these games. Every time I see Xayah into GP, it looks so crazy unplayable. Unless you're Fnatic in game 3, in which case you just lose anyway because your mental is so boomed that you can't get over the hump. So it's tough. It's tough, man.
All right, so that was just game one, y'all. There were 2 more games of this glorious.
What I was talking about earlier is like if you're Golden Guardians, like I don't understand why you're even contesting early objectives at all. Like it's just completely unnecessary with the composition that you have. It's like they don't understand their own goals in terms of like what is the perfect like end game state for them, and they will just chase anything that's in front of them. And it's like, if you want to play like that, then draft like that, right? Like you don't draft this composition and then opt into early dragon fights.
Yeah, this feels like one where you'd love to get the comms. We're not going to get the comms, but you'd love to get the comms to be like, why is that happening? Who is calling that? Because I feel like an Arrow's not drafting this, and the rest of the coaching staff, so it's not just Nick, but they're not redrafting this without going over that multiple times. But lo and behold, here we were. And again, Golden Guardians never really got into it in this series. And Cloud9, that laser was great, but they took the series as well. So I feel like we didn't learn.
I mean, it wasn't even a series. Like it's just like one of those things where it's like, yeah, I mean, if C9 even plays bad, they still 3-0 Golden Guardians. Like this was the problem with LCS, is that like the middle to bottom is so bad that it's like not even almost entertaining to watch this. Like if you look at LEC, for example, in the same like position of the draft, like, you know, like 4, like whoever's going out 4 or 5, this is like when you literally got to watch G2 versus Vitality, which even though it was a 3-0, it was actually a series. You know, like Vitality had leads in all 3 games and they kind of fucking threw, but it was like, oh shit, like this game is like, these games are legitimate. Like Vitality is not that much worse than G2 in those games, right? But like, this is just, I don't know, bro. Like it's just one of those series where you're watching and you just kind of want it to end quicker. You're just hoping that it doesn't go to a 4th
series
game
this weekend. There wasn't
so clearly outclassed.
Yeah, there wasn't, especially because I think EG did a very good job of pinching the mid pool, which forced Tukui onto Orianna. And considering Tukui was the main carry potential on this Flyquest roster throughout the entire split. It's kind of surprising nobody did this earlier, but also this team, like this is the same problem that we saw in Cloud9 last week. And this week, at least, I will say Fudge did step up and carry, although it was very easy for him a lot of the time because when he plays LeBlanc and there's literally nobody who can stop you from poking as LeBlanc, like there's actually no LeBlanc counterplay on Golden Guardian's composition to prevent. How do you catch the LeBlanc? With Gwen, Nocturne, Victor, Jhin, and Leona. There is no kill threat onto Fudge ever. So it's really easy.
Much better, just in general.
Yeah, it's really easy to play LeBlanc. So yes, part of it was it was free for Fudge, but he did actually carry, which if you see Summit moving into, let's say, more of a weak side role, that was the question about C9 is, can Fudge actually carry these games? And the answer was yes, although to the degree to which that is true, we don't know because the drafts and play were so bad from Golden Guardians. So open-ended question, really.
I mean,
and then in the second,
see how he lanes versus JoJo next week, right? Like that's when you make the distinction on if he's actually like going to be able to lane well.
But in the other series, it's like, okay, so they get like Flyquest literally gets Zeri, which nobody gets these days. Johnson can't do shit on it. Takui is on Orianna with zero backline threat with this Orianna. This Orianna cannot do anything in any of the games where Orianna is played. Like in the later games of this series, like look at game 3. Danny is playing Jinx and Tahm Kench, and Flyquest has Sion, Volibear, Orianna, Aphelios, and Nautilus. How does Jinx ever die?
If everything
even without the Tahm
in front of it.
The Tahm Kench is even just completely unnecessary in this composition because even if Tahm Kench isn't there, Jinx isn't going to die, and then Jinx is definitely not going to die with Tahm Kench in this lineup. Like there is no way to deal with Jinx. So these drafts are just they're just horrific. Like they don't have the tools in order to shut down Danny at all or win this game. And then the Orianna on your best player, on your highest performing player, because the mid pool is just so pinched at this point in time. And again, we've had this conversation before, but when you pinch the mid pool or when you pinch a champion pool that much, like we saw with Summit, somebody has to step up with a blue side power pick in order to win the game.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what to say. Yeah, it's true. Somebody does.
That was the conversation I had with Afro. I was able to chat with him post game, and he felt like game 1 was close. He knew the mistakes they made in game 2. He was like, but he said games 3 and games 4, we got exposed as a team. Like our flaws were on clear display, as well as not having the tools to fight when they wanted to fight. He said there were multiple times that they wanted to pull the trigger, and for whatever reason, other than him and I think he said Jose, the other guys, they're still new. He was, putting the positive spin on it, that they're new and this is their first playoff showing, and to win a game like game 2 is going to be great to build upon for next season. But he was pretty adamant that like they were what they were.
Game 2 was even embarrassing because they had Soul so early on into the game and they still almost lost. And yes, it was a good play from Kumo to go like backdoor the Nexus. That was actually a very good heads up play. I felt in that moment when you're half HP on Gwen coming out of the fight, they're not going to expect you to not recall and then like TP in. So I think that was a good shot call from Flyquest to win that game, but it never should have been that close. It never should have come down to that moment in time ever.
Of course, but that's the problem. It's like, is it a good, like, do we compliment a team shot calling when they like weren't able to shot call their way out of the first situation they were in this game, which is like they have Baron and and they're splitting on mid and bot, and then Kumo just gets caught, and then the whole game fucking explodes. You almost lose your Nexus. It's like that's
and literally EG should have won off of that moment, but then EG fucked up, right? Like this was, but I feel like both of these games, people are going to take away like, oh, Cloud9 looks a lot better, and like, wow, EG really dispensed with Flyquest, and they managed to pull it back in like a really tough situation. But honestly, even the winning teams played kind of bad in these series.
Yeah, it's tough to watch. I mean, it's you just got to wait for next week. I feel like next week's series is actually like pretty hyped just because it is Cloud9 versus EG, and both teams like are going to feel like fourth place is a failure, right? And both teams want to actually be able to get to Houston. So I think that's a week where you can take a lot more. But I mean, either of the, it's just like Flyquest and Golden Guardians, like it doesn't look like Flyquest and Golden Guardians can ever win. You know, like when you go into these series, you're like, what could have happened in the series for them to win? Like, so for example, there was only one series that I felt like that in pretty much the entirety of playoffs, which was G2 versus Misfits. I guess Misfits versus Rogue was like a little bit like that, but Misfits did win a game. But like G2 versus Misfits was the only game that I watched where I'm like, I can't even take anything away from this because G2 is just on another level than Misfits. It's like so clear that even like drafting and everything, I would put like, it's just such a good series from G2 because they don't have to show anything. Like they don't reveal anything. They win so hard that anything that they would actually have to pull out in a series, any like, you know, cards that they have in their deck are just still left within their deck and not on the table. So for me, I just like these types of series, I feel like is why people just like always flame LCS, is because there are going to be matches that I want to watch. Like next week's matches, I think are pretty good. EG versus C9, 100 Thieves versus TL. I think that those are both interesting matches. You can get into them. But like these matches, it's like you're just like when EG wins game 2, you're like, fuck, man, now they have to win in 4 games instead of 3. It's not like you're like, damn, maybe Flyquest is gonna come back. like
especially with how
like
they almost lost that game anyway, in spite of this tremendous advantage that they had. And I guess my confusion with watching the LCS and LEC is like, I expect a lot more from very good teams that I know are good in LEC, like Rogue. I don't know what happened to Rogue this last week, but they played uncharacteristically badly. But at least we got to see like prime Caps again. That was very exciting, right? G2 had to step up. They changed their strategy. All their players were playing well. But there wasn't a lot of resistance. But what is confusing to me is like the priority over some of these champions that we know, like we can literally just watch Korea and China and we can see, okay, they do it. They've like already gone to the next level of like what deals with Ari.
Yeah,
and
like this is OP. What are the counter
There's
picks?
Vagar, there's Vex. Like, where are these champions in the West? Like, why are they being played? Like, what? It's very obvious that this is like a back and forth that exists in the drafts in these regions. And it's not like you need 1 billion hours of practice to play fucking Vex and Vagar. They're not super mechanically demanding champions.
Sure. And then also like you think about like the players that are playing it. Like I could understand certain people being like, they're not really a Vex, but like, I mean, Humanoid seems like a Vex player. Larson seems like a Vigar player. Isn't Vigar like the perfect answer for a player like Larson?
Exactly.
Isn't that just his champion? It's like it's the mage that just wants to sit back, scale, like and just abuse, like going even in lane, and then just starts taking over later on once you get a couple items. Like that is Larson's fucking champion, bro. Why is he not playing it? Like, why is he playing Lucian?
What's funny, Dom, is you talk about the G2 Misfits series, but the one game that was actually interesting was the Vex game from VTO, where he actually played Vex well enough to almost come back in that game. It was getting me a little sweaty there at times when he hit some like big plays on the Vex, because I thought, oh, maybe there is a chance that Misfits can actually win this game. Okay. It's a good champ in the context. It just feels like. It feels like the meta is like half baked in the LCS and LEC, where the actual like back and forth of champions in the draft is just incomplete a lot of the time, and it leads to games where you're picking Orianna and you cannot kill a Jinx. Like there isn't a way to kill a Jinx with Sion, Volibear, Orianna, Aphelios, Nautilus.
Yeah, I mean, they're just turbo outranged. I mean, look. I mean, it's not just Jinx, right? It's Jinx and Azir. Like, who's killing either of them? Like, both of them are impossible to kill in this game. So, I mean, so on the positive side, I will say that, like, EG, this was by far the best drafts they've, like, had the entire split. Like, their draft in game 2, their draft in game 3 was the biggest draft gap I think I've ever seen in any region in my entire life.
That's the game I'm talking about with the, like, yeah, there's no way for them to kill a Jinx.
I thought you were talking. Well, the next game is the
either game.
Thing.
But it's even worse than the first game, because at least there's a universe where maybe you hit the Jinx with an Ornn ult in the second game and can maybe do something. But in the first game, there's actually just no way to.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe you hit him with the Ornn ult, and then there's a Tom Kench on the enemy team.
Yes.
So the Jinx is like even safer in game 4. Yes. Like I don't know. I
mean, the Tom Kench is in both games, so you pick.
Yeah. I think in game 4, it's like I don't know. I mean, you have like Renata, which is a champion that specializes when a team runs into you, which like if you watch like
against a poke comp.
Yeah, exactly. Against a poke comp. It doesn't make sense. When you watch G2 play Renata, what are they playing into? Things like Nautilus, things that are going to fucking run into them. And then what do? They just press Renata ulti and then they just win the trade. So Yeah, I don't know. It's really fucking weird. It's really strange to me to see how to see how these drafts shape up. I mean, I don't know how they get to the stage where they can be this outclassed in draft. Like, how do you get to the point where the enemy team has counterpick top? Like, they have counterpick top. People perceive this as a counterpick mid. The enemy team has a Trundle, which is good into the whole team comp. You're dealing with 2 immobile carries, and you have Scion and Volibear and Nautilus, 3 targets that Trundle can ult. So it's like great Trundle game. The Jinx is super fucking safe in the same game. Like, it's like they get outranged. I mean, so it's like, how do you end up in a draft where all 3 of your lanes are countered and the team comps like counter you in the fucking fights themselves? What is going on? Like, how does this actually occur? Like, you're literally losing in every capacity of draft. You lose team fights, you lose split push, you lose fucking lane phase, you lose early, mid, late game. Like, what do you do? Like, how do you play? I don't understand.
The best thing is it's Danny's build too. Like, he doesn't even build rapid fire cannon because he thinks he's so fucking safe.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't even need rapid fire cannon in this situation because it's so fucking free for him.
I mean, I would argue in this game, like, when you have a Tom Kench, I would say, like, just build Kraken Slayer. I don't think he needs Gale Force in this game.
Sure. I mean, I'm actually surprised he built Gale Force as well.
Yeah, I think that was actually a misbuy by him, but it just looks impossible to play. Like, I mean, I tweeted it out, LS retweeted it. It was just like, you're watching this game from a spectator. You're like, this is impossible to get draft gap this hard. It's actually not possible to get draft gap this hard because of the way that picks work, right? Like, if you're trading back and forth, like, unless you had to pick all 5 of your champions and then the enemy team gets to pick all 5 of their champions, counter picking your 5 champions, like, blue team is like, we declare these 5 champions and the red team gets 5 counters. If that's how the draft worked, I could see this happening. But how in a world where you're like trading 1-2-2-2-1 like with bans, how do you end up in a situation where you get draft gap this hard in game 3?
To be fair to EG's coaching staff, I actually think people will focus on like the Nidalee Renekton stuff, which was obviously bad. But if you look at the rest of the series, I think EG has done a really good job of maximizing their player strengths and figuring out clever ways to potentially take on better opponents like Team Liquid. We saw that in like the swapping of lanes with like the Lucian and Ryze in the last series. We saw it with the level 1s that they had planned out versus Team Liquid. I think that if you look at getting the most bang for your buck in terms of the players that you have, EG has done a really good job in their drafts over the course of these playoffs. I think they've maximized the value of these players through the decisions that they've made, which has been impressive.
I think so too. I think the curious thing to me is that, like, Impact is just not playing his role as like a weak side / tank top laner as well as he has in the past. Like, you would think that, like, with this team, Impact playing like GP into Kumo's tanks or him playing Ornn would be just like, he would just be that super solid, like really proactive, just like that best tank player that we had literally in the entire West at a point. And it just feels like he's not, like, he's just dying like in weird situations. He's dying to ganks that he used to not die to. So I would say that that's a little bit curious for EG. I wonder why Impact is struggling so much because he never got any help. So you can't say like, oh, but like on TL, it was like his jungler would cover for him. And like, it's like, no, he was literally on a fucking island his entire career, like just top lane. And no one would help him ever, and he was still always fucking relevant, always making good decisions. Like, it was even worse than that. There were games where like his team would actively fuck him over. They would just like run top, suicide to the top laner, and he would just be like, it's fine. Like, there's nothing that this guy could, there's no advantage that my enemy top laner could have that could ever make me not be relevant within this game. And I was just like, oh, you ganked me? Well, I guess I'm just dead.
He did bounce back in the GP game.
Yeah, but it's like, but before he wouldn't die like that. Like, he wouldn't just die. Like, he saw the enemy jungler just walk back up and died. It's like his W's on corner. He just like walked back in. He's like fucking has his hand in the air as the fucking pirate and just gets slapped. It's like, oh, well, shit, maybe I shouldn't have walked up. Like, just gets double flashed on. I don't know.
Well, you know. Yeah. He also tends to play to the level of his opponents, and that's always been true. That's why there are always the discussions about, oh, it's playoffs Impact now, right? Because he can run it sometimes in the regular season. He definitely steps up in harder games, I feel like.
Okay.
We'll see though.
And to be fair, I'm gonna get flamed for this, but to be fair, I felt like Kumo played okay in this series as well. Like
He
Kumo
did.
was probably one of the
good.
better players on Flyquest roster. So impact was.
I think Kumo had a really good season overall. I think he was.
Yeah.
I think he ended up being the best out of the NA top laners because like you got to like make the distinction. It's like you got the imports who are like drastically better than everyone else, vastly better than everyone else, and then you have the NA
I think
top laners.
I still think Revenge is better, but I think Kumo did improve a lot as the season.
Revenge played.
I think
horrible
Revenge
the
had
last
a
2
really
weeks.
like rough
last 2 weeks.
I agree with that,
horrible.
but he also was on a horrible team and didn't get any help. Plus, my name is MonteCristo, so I have to like Revenge. So there you go. It's thematic.
I've never actually read the book, so like I don't know too much about the lore of MonteCristo.
Oh, okay. So, Dom, the whole thing is just in culture, the Cat of Monte Cristo is always just synonymous with the concept of revenge. That is the whole point of the book.
Yeah, still haven't read it. I've been wanting to read it, but it's just such a daunting task that I've just
It's a
decided,
huge
like,
book.
It's like 1,100 pages or something. I'm like, I could literally read like 4 books in that time.
And as somebody who's named Monte Cristo, I'll tell you, it's not even that good of a book. I mean, it's entertaining, but you have to understand that it's basically just like a 19th century soap opera. So if you're cool with that, it's very exciting. You know, Dumas wrote The Three Musketeers and stuff like that. He's a very good adventure storyteller, but it's not great literature. So it's fun.
We need a Monte Cristo reading list. That's what we need at some point.
Did you know that I have a reading channel where I read The Count of Monte Cristo? So you can just listen to that.
I did not know that.
Yeah, but like, I mean, the thing is, like, if you're actually a good reader, you can read a lot faster than you can like speak the words. You know, so I would rather just like sit there with the book and like.
I know you don't want to listen to me. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I tried audiobooks, but they're so fucking slow. It's like you hear the person like talking. It's like, please, just like let me just fucking get.
I only do audiobooks when I'm like on a road trip, in which case they are very enjoyable.
Well, speaking of revenge, we've got a revenge matchup here in our next, I guess, elimination match for third place between Cloud9 and Evil Geniuses. Vulcan, one of the star players for Cloud9 for several years, the original North American $1 Million Man, gets moved to Evil Geniuses and now is playing a team in Cloud9 who's having trouble in his old position with Isles coming on in. How do we see this one shaking up here for the third, fourth matchup? EG against Cloud9 with EG's great draft prep compared to Cloud9 who beat Golden Guardians, Dom.
I mean, it's really hard for me to say because I think both teams are, both teams are not super good. So it's kind of just like whoever shows up better that day, whoever just makes like better decisions. I want to say Cloud9 at their peak is slightly favored.
Yes.
But I mean,
are they peaking right now is the question. And we can't tell because we learned absolutely nothing from those Golden Guardians games.
Well, I mean, I think what we need to actually see is how the matchups are actually going to go versus better players. Because I think that, for example, if Cloud9 plays the way they do in game 1, I think that just mechanically EG will just stomp them in a game like that. Like, I don't think that EG is going to let that shit fly. But I will say that, like, Isles did make the team look a lot better in the early game. Just having a support that's actually not running it down is really important for, like, early Herald fights and just, like, finding opportunities. And it looked like Herald was, just in general, Isles was better in those Herald situations, which are really prominent right now. Throughout the game. So like I want to say C9 is slightly favored in my mind, but I don't even know if like I actually think that Cloud9 is better than EG, or I just kind of want Cloud9 to win because I feel like if they actually like start performing well again, they have a higher ceiling than this version of EG. So it's really difficult for me to make a decision. I guess I would go like 51% Cloud9, like 3-2 Cloud9 in the most like disgusting 5th game back and forth throw fest that we've ever seen in our life.
Flyquest Evil Geniuses game 2.
I think if you think the teams are even, that the prep coming in and the set plays have been better from EG. So I'd say 55% EG, but I share many of Dom's concerns. My concerns with Evil Geniuses are that Jojo Pian still randomly dies in side lanes because he doesn't really know when he's under threat a lot of the time. Impact's individual performance that Dom brought up earlier might be slightly concerning depending on how well Summit is playing. I think the positive side is we have seen, I guess, a couple more champions out of Summit at this point in time, which is an encouraging sign, but Impact should still have the larger champion pool overall. So I think it's a little bit EG favored because they only need one of those games where they come up with the creative level 1 or have an interesting early set play in order to get a pretty big advantage.
I think for me, I'm just excited to see the spot lane matchup. Berserker and Danny both can play on Knife's Edge and love to play the Knife's Edge. Isles coming on in, who I think a lot of people know that Isles has been down in Academy, but also part of the internal scrims, working with Sven a lot, has been leveling up and getting that, I think, higher tier experience that maybe King can't provide. So as much as he's been out in Academy, he's still getting top tier guidance, and that's just going to be a really fun lane to watch. I hope they make it fun. I hope it's not just a farm fest and then at some point we get into a team fight later, but that they do try to do some 2v2 skirmishes and see where that ends up, because it's been highly documented, the dance between Vulcan's aggression and Danny's conservative play nature to scale and then get to team fights, and that's bit them in the ass before, evil geniuses. So yeah, I want to see how that shakes up here in this series. I go for the higher ceiling as well in 3-2 Cloud9. I want to see this Cloud9 achieve this higher potential that they have and can get to. So, all right, there we go. Well, it didn't hurt too much there, Monty. LCS done. No, we have to do one more. On the top side of the map, let's go to TL and 100 Thieves.
How dare
that
you
is our
bait
other
me
matchup.
like that, sir? How dare you?
It's not done. It's never done.
TL 100 Thieves, they have their matchup. Again, it's double limbs, so whoever loses will go down, play the winner of Cloud9 EG. That'll be the first match on Saturday in Houston on the 22nd. Or is it 23rd? On the 23rd, Saturday the 23rd, and then the finals will be on the 24th. How do you see this one shaping up here, Monty?
I think Team Liquid wins this. I think, 100 Thieves win was obviously very convincing versus Cloud9. That was a really terrible series for Cloud9 overall. And we saw 100 Thieves. I think it's fortunate for them that they've returned to a 100 Thieves meta where you can play really aggressive early game junglers, even though Someday has been good over the course of this split on top lane carries. He's now back in the Someday comfort zone where he can play weak side top laners, which has always been his strength. Abadage is no longer a dog. I don't know what was going on for half this split, but he definitely ramped up towards the end. The whole split. Definitely looks back now, though. Don't know what's going on there. Very odd performance by him. But it seemed to go very well against Cloud9. Now, Cloud9 was a weaker opponent. I don't feel like this answered any questions that I had about what happens when 100 Thieves goes to a late game. And the problem for me is that Team Liquid seems like they're always able to make it to late game. So even though Team Liquid has been throwing sometimes in late game, I'm not sure 100 Thieves is the team that is capable of catching those throws should they enter into that scenario. So for me, the question is, do we believe that 100 Thieves is going to win the early game hard enough, or is Team Liquid going to be able to kind of keep step for step with them? And then in which case I would say that's a very heavily favored Team Liquid scenario. So I guess this is to say, I think it's like Team Liquid 60% or 65%.
Yeah, I don't really know how to judge it myself. Like, I look at the teams and it's like 100 Thieves, if they play well, I mean, are they just going to win again by just being 100 Sins? They'll just win early game hard enough that nothing else matters. Is that going to be the result of this play? I hope not. I hope for the sake of this region, look, I'm okay with 100 Thieves winning. I have nothing against 100 Thieves. I just hope that they actually have to at some point get better at the stuff that they're bad at to win. Because that's how like regions grow, is you get challenged and you figure out like what a team's strong at. You take that away from them, and then suddenly the team has to adapt and get better at stuff that they weren't good at. Like, we didn't see too much of that from LEC, but even in LEC, we saw like G2 at least adapt towards like, hey, you know, we were playing like strong side top the entire season, and then suddenly, oh, we're playing Ornn in like the last few games. And it's just BB's playing Ornn, and he's just dominant, and the team just looks like they can make that level up where it's not like we have to win through top. It's like, oh, we can win through other places. Our top is still just playing like a solid orange. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how to call it. I'm getting this like horrible feeling that 100 Thieves is just going to win again by doing the same shit. So I don't know where to go with
It does
that.
seem to be the right. Papa Smithy told me that Closer gets an insane crowd buff. That's what he told me, was that Closer really thrives in the live audience environment, which was part of the reason why they were doing better.
God, maybe I'll go. I'm gonna go 100 Thieves 50.05%. So 49.95 to 50.05%.
By the way, I am annoyed that 100 Thieves. I keep calling it 100 Thieves because 100 Thieves isn't a fucking thing that anyone ever says, and the name of the org is terrible. So I always just end up calling it 100 Thieves. But anyway, 100 Thieves. I feel like they can't keep getting away with coming into playoffs and then having a meta shift that is extremely favorable to them, just like they had last summer as well. I find that annoying.
I think 100 Thieves wins this. I don't think they win the LCS. But I think they win this because I just don't like the way that TL is prepped. I do think that those vets are good enough to figure it out at some point, but I don't. Like, I think the aggression from 100 Thieves compared to like a dormant LCS that it's mainly been so far will surprise TL.
Look, if TL loses, there is no hope for NA. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
This Team Liquid roster is the fucking super team. These players on Team Liquid should be internationally competitive.
Yeah.
If they lose, it means they are less than the sum of their parts, and NA is doomed. Okay? Like, I hate to say it, guys, but pound for pound, 100 Thieves is not as good as Team Liquid. Look at Team Liquid's fucking roster. You have a fucking world champion player on this roster in Core JJ. You have Hans Sama. You have Santorin, Bjergsen, and Bwipo. These are all, like, if this team cannot win LCS and cannot perform well internationally, NA is doomed, guys. It doesn't get better than this.
Wow.
It's true.
Sounds like how I thought about Cloud9 last year. It's like you've got the fucking Western GOAT on this team, the best jungler that NA's ever had. You've got Vulcan and Sven, who've been shitting on fucking bot lane for an entire year.
Yep. Holy shit.
And Fudge, one of the most promising players that has came into LCS in recent memory.
And was the best international player on that roster at MSI, too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
as a rookie.
I guess, to be honest, that was like pretty good. Like when you take away like how the quarterfinals looked, I mean, it was the first time that NA got out of group stage in like 3 years. So that's pretty solid.
Yeah, but there have to be higher expectations for this roster. I mean, put yourself in the fucking... Yes. Fudge was an unknown starting last year.
That's
yeah.
true.
I don't know. I don't know if I could see like, so you're saying that they have to get to semifinals of Worlds or it's a failure.
I think that if they are not at least competitive with some of the top, like they should be able to take a game from an Asian team with this roster. It is, when you have to have NA residents, it is difficult to make a better roster than the one that this is. How would you improve this roster?
I don't know, man. Like
that's what I'm saying.
Look, but the thing is, you don't actually need NA residents, right? Like I mean, you do need NA residents, right? But you just need to wait until the next generation of players becomes NA residents. Like when Closer becomes an NA resident, it's like, all right, now.
All right.
I mean, you
can
could
level
the next
things
big
up.
business.
I mean, you could put Blabber in this roster, I guess, but I feel like
that's the only
Santorin.
one.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. I think that Santorin fits his role within this team, and he's not a slouch, right? It's not that there's a distinct, obvious upgrade to be made, is my point. And like this roster, with all the money that Team Liquid like is paying to Bjergsen, like this roster has to win LCS. Anything less than winning LCS and at least being mildly competitive internationally is a failure.
Yeah, sure.
So losing the 100 Thieves would be a huge failure this weekend.
Yeah. I'm on board with everything you said. I think it still might happen. Like it doesn't change. Like it's just a change where like what I think. Well, it's like, yeah, that would fucking suck. Like
Basically, Team Liquid has gotten a pass in terms of the expectations because the LS drama tanked all of the aggro this split.
And
Right?
TSM. And TSM.
And TSM. Yes, that's true. Team Liquid has gotten a free fucking pass. But realistically, guys, even before LS left, Team Liquids were still the favorites coming into this season by a lot.
Yep.
Because Cloud9 was running with 2 rookies in the bot lane, even though they were good and promised. And Fudge had role swapped. Like, nobody knew how that was going to work. So Team Liquid was the overwhelming favorite coming into the spring. And if this, I guess everybody's just cool with the fact that they almost lose to EG.
Yeah.
This team should be fucking smacking people.
Yeah. Yeah, I still feel the same way. Like, I agree with everything you said.
I think I just have a new business now. It's literally the LCS dating service. Let's hurry up. Let's get these guys their green cards, fall in love, all that stuff. I've been watching a lot of Love is
But
Blind.
you have to get the girlfriend debuff before you get the wife buff. That's the problem. The slump is real.
Ambition. Doing B.
It's true. It's true, dude. It's true. The girlfriend debuff hits the pro players real hard, and then followed by the wife buff.
Yeah. Well, I think the difference is that there's a goal here from the girlfriend buff to get to the wife buff, so maybe the debuff won't last as long. It's like we're building some tenacity because we were saying what the goal is in mind.
The problem is reaching the wife buff because, so many of these players have had the same girlfriends. So
Okay.
It's okay.
you laugh, but it's true.
And with that, we leave the LCS on a good note.
Okay.
All right. Those were our 2 regions that had 2 major regions that had games. I know that we have some fans from some minor regions, so here's your time in the spotlight. Here are the 3 minor regions that qualified as of recording period. From Turkey, we don't have to say 1907 Fenerbahce. We have Istanbul Wildcats who are making their return onto the global stage. So if you're looking at rosters, Holy Phoenix still on the squad. So Holy Phoenix is there with Farfetch down on the bottom side of the map. And then you have Saren, Ferret, and Starscreen. A little lesser note, but some of these guys are returning from last time they made it to the international stage. Monty, your favorite Japanese squad makes a return here from the LJL. Detonation Focus Me return with Evie and Steel. But then in the mid lane, no more Arya. They're going with different Korean mid laner, Yaharong, there in the squad. And then no, who was it? Gaeng before from Detonation Focus Me. This is the same squad that took a game off of Cloud9. They're going with support named Harp. And then longtime AD carry Utapon still there. Yaharong, mid laner, was with Reddit, good old Reddit Brian before in last season. And then Harp was at KT, which is where Arya, the former mid laner, went to. So a little bit of shout outs there for Detonation Focus Me. And then finally, our friends from Osh, it's Aura. They return, or I think they make their first international debut. Order's been around for quite some time. The only player with international experience was last year's top lane darling from Pentanet. It's BioPanther, who's moved on from Pentanet. Everyone else new and very, very young. BioPanther, Kevy, Kissy, Puma, and Corporal are your players there, but a lot of them very young or spent time in like the developmental rosters. Interesting player for everyone. Corporal is considered a Japanese resident because he was a Japanese, he was born in Japan, but he is also Australian, so spent some time over on SoftBank Hawks last season before joining Order. And now moving on to the international stage. So those are 3 minor region teams that have qualified. We still are waiting to see what's happening with Vietnam, but Latin America have their playoffs. Brazil also have their playoffs. BRTT's squad still in it. His contract's in weird limbo, so I'm not exactly sure if he's the one that's playing the AD carry role, but he's still there. PCS also finishing up as well. So there you go. There's MSI shoutouts for all of our friends globally. Yeah.
Do we have to watch MSI if LPL doesn't go? Like, do I actually have to watch it, or can I just like take 2 months off?
You can. I give you permission to only watch semifinals on.
Okay. All right.
It's 3 best of 5s.
I'll just come to the show and just have nothing to add. I'll just literally not say one word the entire time.
And LCK games, you wouldn't want to watch T1?
Not until
Not if they're not.
semifinals.
I mean, I wouldn't. If LPL doesn't go, like, I think it's just like, I don't know. I don't. I think G2 like overachieved, but I don't think they're going to be internationally competitive at least this early. Like, it would be crazy, bro. Like, if they were internationally, if they beat T1, holy fuck, that is like the biggest upset in the history of the world in anything that's ever happened.
Just a reminder for everyone, MSI will have their group stages where teams are put into 4 groups of 3 groups of 4, so group A, B, and C, except one group will only have 2 teams, which is how Pentanet got out. They beat Unicorns of Love. And then after that, we go into the Rumble stage where it's just one big group and they all play each other double round robin. And then we get to the knockout stages with the top 4 teams from the Rumble phase. So MSI all written out. Oh, all right. That was a different week of League of Legends just because there was lesser and lesser quality. But we will have, hopefully, the LPL returning with their playoffs, at least online. They have the beginning of their double elimination bracket. Who is it? It's V5 and Top Esports, and then JDG versus RNG. Whoever wins out of that will play to a winners bracket finals. Whoever loses still has the opportunity in their loser bracket now that the gauntlet is done. Dom, I know we hit it before, but for those of us that missed that last episode, what excites you about this bracket here?
I mean, I think it's just you get to see the best teams actually play, and the fact that now we've had for 2 years in a row the team that actually gets like smashed in this round that we're about to have come back and win from the lower bracket. So I mean, I just think that generally LPL is pretty hyped to watch. I mean, you have a situation where if you look at like the last 5 splits, I believe a different team has won every split. It was like top JDG won, and then last year you had EDG, RNG, and I believe before that it was FPX, if you go far enough back to 2019. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty fucking hype. That, you know, generally you just get a new champion all the time. You don't just get to watch the same teams win over and over again. You don't get 9 out of 13 championships going to the same org.
If you need a palate cleanser, go watch V5. Just go watch Rookie.
Also, I mean, just in terms of matchups, the Rookie Knight matchup that's happening in top V5 is pretty sick, and also underrated, perhaps the top lane matchup of Rich versus Wayward. So it's pretty fucking good. That match is pretty good. I will say I'm less excited about the RNG JDG because I was like really disappointed in JDG's play in their last best of 5. I don't think that's going to be necessarily as competitive, but V5 versus top could be fun.
Yep. All right. There you have it. Let's close it out, boys. Time for God or Dog. It's our favorite.
Oh.
Lesser candidates here. Lots of dogs. Who are the gods?
I got mine. I got both of mine. They're easy for me.
Yeah. Boom. Go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So my god, I'm just gonna go with Caps. I mean, I think that's a pretty easy one. Finals MVP. I mean, this is the best form we've seen Caps in almost 2 years. Like, this is so that's crazy. I mean, Caps had a pretty like middling split. Did he even get top 3? Did he get was he even all pro third team this year? I would have to look.
No,
I don't think so.
Yeah, so
it would have been VTO, Larson.
Was it Humanoid?
And Humanoid. It was VTO, Humanoid, Larson, I believe.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Bricks and Caps both split votes in the third place voting, I think.
Yeah, so he wasn't even considered top 3 mid laners in LEC over the course of the split, and then he was like by far the best mid laner this weekend. Like, he was shitting on everyone.
All right.
I'll go with Jankos, who I think Caps was deserving of the MVP in the finals. I think if you had to give a total playoffs MVP, I would have given it to Jankos because I think he was better in some of the early stages for G2. I think it's very impressive how much he adapted his play style, and especially as he started to be a little bit more aggressive in the early game in this last weekend, I think he was extremely good.
All All right, I was giving mine to Flackid. 10 deaths in 12 games in that run.
Especially for a player who is new to playing on stage with an audience. That's very impressive.
And was getting like a lot of flack from the series before, where he was not doing anything. He at least settled down and did his job. And to not die that many times, even including that 4-death, that 3-death start in their decisive game 3, he still only had 10 deaths in the last 12 games. So that was pretty huge props to him to make that turnaround there as a young player. Let's go, Dog. Who you got, Dom? Since you were so adamant about it.
Humanoid. So Humanoid is my dog. He just died to like every level 3 gank for like 2 weeks in a row. I don't know, like. He was always good at drawing pressure and like playing like the enemy jungler wasn't there, which is really good when the enemy jungler is actually not there. But when the enemy jungler just comes to your lane and you just die to everything all the time, I think it's a little bit rough. And then his flash key was like bugged the entire Kai'Sa game. It just kept on showing that he had flash up, but for some reason he was never flashing anything. So it was rough, man. I expect more of Humanoid. I think he's a lot better than what he showed. And he's just making the game so hard. And look, as a jungler, I empathize with Razork. I take offense to a mid laner dying to that many jungle ganks. It makes the game so fucking hard for no reason.
Monty?
I think Trimby is a pretty strong candidate, especially compared to his typical performance, where I think he was very good over the course of the split. I think he seems to be one of those players that was really rattled by having an audience for the first time. But I can't get the Golden Guardians games out of my mind, so I think it has to be Lost, who did nothing and picked Jhin and Senna and just was completely not present in this series. Don't know if that was the coaching decision or his decision to be on some of these off-meta picks. I kind of respect the fact that I can only assume that, like, by playing the fasting Senna, the conclusions of Golden Guardians was that they had to let Ole carry this game on Tahm Kench, which I think was reasonable given the level of play in this series, but kind of tragic at this point in time that you're like, well, guys, here we are, game 3. We just got booty blasted 2 games in a row. Ole, you're taking all the farm on Tahm Kench. Let's go. It's our only chance to win.
Yep. I mean, look, it was one of the win conditions their entire split. You had to ban Ole's Tahm Kench when you were against him because he would just take over. So, you know, I respect that. Also, when are we going to learn? Like, so I didn't know for weeks that Tahm Kench Senna was like not allowed to be played together in LCS. Like, so it was like actually banned in LCS. Like the league officials said you could not play Tahm Kench Senna. So when are they going to actually start sharing with the community like what champion combos are not fucking available? Because that was one of the things I
wonder if there's a commissioner that could do these things and make these statements to the community.
Like, I would just appreciate not just sounding like a complete fucking idiot on my stream where I just keep on saying like, hey, I really think that Tahm Kench Senna would be good here. Oh, why don't they play it? No one's playing Tahm Kench Senna. And it's like eventually a coach just hits me up and is like, yo, by the way, like this shit has been banned for 3 weeks, you know? So I didn't even know that Tahm Kench Senna was possible. When they were hovering it, I was telling my chat, like, no, it's banned. So, like, why don't we get to hear, like, what champion combos are banned and what champion combos are available so we actually know the parameters in which, which we should be judging professional League of Legends through.
I mean, Dom, we have lots of questions like this. So here's another commissioner question for you. So in the LCK finals that happened, when T1 announces the day after that they have COVID, why isn't the commissioner making a statement about what their COVID protocols are and when they tested and just clarifying it? Why is that Joe Marsh's job to like go out there and make statements on behalf of the team? And like then Arnold's like rolling up saying like, oh no, the COVID protocols are fine. It's like, hello, where's the commissioner to make the announcements about the way the league works? Hello, anybody?
Is that my job? Is that the job?
You know, as somebody who has been a commissioner, I would just go out there and be like, look, guys, this is what the league does to protect the players, and here are our protocols. Seems reasonable. Weird. Apparently, I'm the only human being on Earth capable of doing this, apparently.
Yep.
Monty for commish 2023.
No,
there we go.
Monty doesn't want that job.
Too bad.
Never.
Too bad.
Never.
You just sold yourself, man.
Yeah. Look, I'll sell myself. Okay, here, I'll make a deal. I'll make a deal with you, okay? I will be commissioner of LCS if Riot lets LCS go to an independent tournament operator and stops operating it themselves. That is the deal.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
It'd be better for everybody.
That'll definitely
It would be better for everybody.
Yeah, right. That's sorry. Like I'm seeing my riot like training like kind of like go like haywire
dGon,
right now, dude.
don't even go through this PTSD. Just get us out of here.
Yeah, dude. All right. My dog is Nocturne. It's Nocturne. Well, I don't know why we're playing Nocturne. All right. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. Again, lesser matches means we're digging into these games as much as we can. We'll dive into the LPL if the matches are played. We'll have some LCS matches next week as well, and I guess we'll do our a recap for some of these minor regions that also qualify on in. Other than that, you can catch Monty on his shows. You can catch Dom with his shows and his co-streams for next week. And then I have my Afromu interview coming out on dGon Esports. You can obviously catch more League of Legends content here on the dGon YouTube channel. If you subscribe, helps us out, so make sure you do that. Until then, we will catch you guys next week for more Jungle. See ya.